finally seems to be some respite, some good news on the Indo-Pak rift. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has today said in the National Assembly that Pakistan will be releasing the Indian Air Force Wing Commander Abhinandan, who is in their captivity, and that will be done tomorrow as a gesture of peace. Later, in a joint conference, the armed forces officials said that they had foiled the design of Pakistan to attack military installations in India and are on the strict vigil, and exhibited the wreckage of Pakistan's F-16s. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi, in a video conference addressed to the BJP booth workers, said that India will fight as one and India will win as one. He has now, of course, gone on to say that the pilot project is done and the real one will also be concluded. What prompted the wing commander's release? What will it mean? Is it international pressure, fear of retaliation, a goodwill gesture? Is de-escalation perhaps the only obvious option now? Are there more messages embedded in the press conference of the Indian Armed Forces? Very many questions and an expert panel to answer all of that on the India Development Debate. I'm Supriya Shrinate. We will be going to be joined very shortly by Funchok Stobdan, former ambassador to the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, Lieutenant General Kamal Davar, who joins us on the phone line, former Chief of India's Defence Intelligence Agency, Tilak Deveshwar, former Special Secretary, Government of India, and Wajahat Habibullah, former Jammu and Kashmir interlocutor. So thank you very much, all of you, for being with us. And if I may begin with you, Mr. Deveshwar, Pak has released a pilot. It will be done tomorrow. What is this on account of? Is this on account of international pressure that was mounting, especially after the US President spoke about America's role, and given the fact that there was pressure mounting from all quarters, not just the US, but China, Saudi Arabia, UAE and all of that? Is this really on account of international pressure?
I think there are a couple of reasons for this. First and basic, Pakistan couldn't have held on to him because as soon as he ejected and landed in Pakistan territory, the visuals of his on social media went viral. So there was no way Pakistan could have denied his presence over there. He was in uniform. So he was entitled to all the rights of a person who's held in captivity as per Pakistan's own the international conventions to which it is a signatory to. So they just could not hold on to him. Secondly, I think India held firm. Pakistan did try. When the foreign minister said that we will release him if it helps in de-escalation, they did try to use him as a lever, as a bargaining chip to sort of hold talks to bring down the pressure. But I think India held firm and we said we will not negotiate and Pakistan must release him immediately. And I'm sure there was also a lot of international pressure and people must have told Pakistan that, look, you can't hold on to him, you can't ill-treat him, you must send him back right away. So I think it was a combination of factors that ultimately convinced Pakistan that they can't hold on to him. They cannot use him as a bargaining chip, and people are telling them, their friends are telling them that we must be released. So I think that's a combination of these factors that led to his release, or that will lead to his release tomorrow.
No, yes, absolutely, and it will be a good day for us. We're all heaving a sigh of relief. But Ambassador Stobdan is here with us. And sir, is the release of the Indian Air Force pilot in the captivity of Pakistan a real big diplomatic victory for us? And what will you account this to? Is this a piece of virtue at all?
No, I'm a bit confused. I'm happy because he's coming back, but I am also disappointed at the same time because the Pakistanis have tried to score a high moral ground, international propaganda that they try to use, and since last 24 hours he has been projected everywhere and telling the whole world that we have captured the Indian Air Force pilot. So I think they tried to use him as a propaganda tool at the international level. And then today again at the assembly they were trying to score some kind of moral high ground and then said, look, we are releasing him on the as a gesture of peace. So well, I don't know, but surely on the back of mind they are aware about the pressure they are being built on the Pakistanis to release him, although I don't think it's an obligation that they're doing for us. It's more of an international convention that they have to abide by. So, but at the same time, I think in the minds of people, this confusion has arisen that whether they are trying to use him for their propaganda.
Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, who's here with us, sir, and there are sections of the people who say, as Imran Khan has said, is this a piece of virtue, or is this fear of retaliation by India that has made Pakistan act? Because there are many out there who will say, should we acknowledge this as a goodwill gesture, or will you perhaps agree with Ambassador Stobdan that the reality is that Pakistan has used this for global PR, global propaganda, and it was imminent for his release due to the Geneva Convention, and perhaps it has happened more out of diplomatic pressure and also the fact that there were fear of retaliation by India.
We are a much larger country than Pakistan, far more mature. Our value systems are different and far more lofty, so we must act according to that. Today, let's rejoice in the fact that a brave air warrior is being returned tomorrow, and nobody less than the Prime Minister of Pakistan made a statement in their National Assembly. So that is the main thing, that he's coming tomorrow, and let's rejoice on that. As far as international pressure is concerned, the pressure from America and India, as you know, the U.S. also has always been whenever there's a problem between India and Pakistan, they do step in. So they would have stepped in. And as Ambassador Stobdan also said, that there is a United Nations Convention. Of course, we also have the Geneva Convention for prisoners of war. The United Nations Convention also says that within 7 days, you must let the whoever you have caught or whoever is in your custody from the other side be released. And then the fact that they had made public, video footages and their DGIS PR brandishing him, showing him in these in their video footages. So they had to, in any case, once they've acknowledged that he's in their custody, they have to release him. After all, they also, I'm sure Pakistan is also worried slightly, if not more, about their global reputation. We have all to live in this interconnected world, so you can't get away with murder every time and any time.
Yes. Right. Okay, let me take this across to Wajahat Habibullah. And sir, is this a step towards de-escalation? Will this gesture reduce tension? Because this was also an overhang in an already, what many are calling the fog of war that we are living in.
Well, certainly, as leaders of both countries have acknowledged, it is a step in the right direction, whether towards escalation or at least reduction of tensions of confrontation. And certainly, I think we should welcome it, because it has not always been, mind you, Pakistan's habit to work so generously with people who they have taken prisoner from our side. So it is from that point of view a positive step, whether done under international pressure or fear of retaliation or whatever. But the fact is that, what do we read into this? As the General had mentioned in the press conference today, our main fight in Kashmir is with terrorism. And if this brings Pakistan onto the table as a result of, as a consequence of this, what they call this gesture, if it brings Pakistan to the table to actually discuss how to eradicate terrorism from its soil. Mind you, General Musharraf had agreed with the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee that his territory, that Pakistani territory, will not be used for terrorism. Unfortunately, the Pakistan government has not remained true to that. If they can now see ways and means of moving towards actually implementing that commitment, then I think we can read being a more positive step into this measure.
All right, just hold that thought now, because I want to move the discussion away from the Indian Air Force pilot, and we will go back to discussing the human side of that story, but to the joint briefing by the three wings of the armed forces. And if I may come to you, Mr. Tilak Daveshar, on this, the joint briefing, put forward many interesting points, but Could we read between the lines, and is this perhaps a signal of de-escalation? And I'm going to quote two lines out of there. First, the Indian Army is committed to maintaining peace and stability in the region. And the second, that Army is in a state of readiness to respond to any provocation made by Pakistan. Those are two big statements. I'm reading between the lines. Am I overreading here, or do you believe those are two big signals of de-escalation?
I would tend to disagree with you. I don't think so. There are signs of de-escalation. They're just conveying to Pakistan that, look, this whole situation arose because of Pakistan's terrorist strike, and we reacted. So that situation has not really changed. And what we are conveying to Pakistan is that today you undertook, or yesterday you undertook military action, or you action against our military targets, and we reserve the right to retaliate. We are in readiness, and should you try something again like this, we are going to come at you. And I think the crucial thing about de-escalation is that we should not be de-escalating our resolve and our courage that we have shown to be able to hit Pakistan inside Pakistan, irrespective of the nuclear overhang. That is a critical thing which has come out in the last 3 days, and that should never be de-escalated now. Any future terrorist attacks from Pakistan, we should display a similar resolve and similar hit Pakistan where it hurts them most, inside Pakistan. Rest of the things, whether in terms of military de-escalation is concerned, well, that's a thing for the two militaries or the Indian Armed Forces to decide what exactly they want to do or how they want to play it. But the resolve that we have shown, there should be no de-escalation or activation of that.
No, that's an interesting point that you're talking about. And Ambassador Stobdan, if I may ask you this question, India has upended the stability-instability paradox that always existed in our equation with Pakistan. Have we, and this has determined our equations with Pakistan for over decades now. Have we decisively delivered a message that any more provocation, any more bloodshed, and this is what we're going to do, we will not be at the receiving end of that?
Oh, absolutely. I think even this evening press conference by the armed forces, joint armed forces, was extremely tough. I thought it's very, very assertive, and I think we got many issues on the table now. They have shown proof how the F-16 have been used, how Imran air-to-air missile has been used, and how they have tried to target military installations. All these new things have been now brought to the table. Now the Pakistanis will have to answer this, because it's not about de-escalation. Now you are asking more answers from the Pakistanis. So I don't see that the pace of the pressure on Pakistan will be lowered anytime soon. I think this will continue. For the time being, I think our pilot should come back in next 15 to 20 hours. And then after that, I think the government will take a new strategy on this.
That continues to plague my mind after that joint press conference by our armed forces. Mr. Dawar, if I may come to you, Lieutenant General Dawar, which is a direct question that was put forward to the officials. And the question was about Pakistan's attempts to target our military installations, and should that be seen as an act of war? My own sense is, if it is an act of war, we can't not react, we can't not respond, and does that become inevitable? Why was there no direct response? It was not a direct, decisive answer that was given. Is it an act of war? Is it not an act of war? Or have we really left Pakistan guessing? Lieutenant General Dawar.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to mention one thing also, that the very fact that we crossed the line of control, we also crossed the international boundary when we went to Balakot, which is not the Balakot opposite Punch. This is the Balakot well deep in. It's in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the old northwest frontier province. And we have gone there and we have struck terrorist targets inside Pakistan. Please note, not POK, Pakistan. So you can take it what the Pakistanis can also construe. So coming back, and this is a paradigm shift in our strategic thinking, and I think it was long overdue. And we must congratulate the government that they've allowed the Air Force to go in so deep in and to go and strike at these terrorist targets inside Pakistan. Please note the word inside Pakistan, not POK. Now, when it comes to Pakistani retaliation, they have crossed the line of control. Normally, in strategic parlance, when you cross the international boundary, that is an act of war. The line of control, well, of course, it is delineated, but is not really a legally, internationally, mandated sort of a thing, though it's agreed between India and Pakistan. So the crossing the line of control is not really an act of war, but crossing the international boundary, in my view, would be an act of war. But having said that, considering everything what you're talking about, the inter-services conference which took place, I think India is keeping its options as of now, as of this moment, as I speak to you, open. And I think, of course, Imran Khan, whatever be the reasons, his love of peace or international pressure or whatever the Indian Air Force has done the other day, the fact is that in case Imran Khan walks the talk, and all he has to do is show his sincerity, because terrorism, as they keep saying, as the Pakistanis keep saying, is affecting them also. Great. If it's affecting you, then let's get on to the terrorists. And these are the common terrorist tanzeems which are in Pakistan, carrying out operations, terrorist actions in India and Afghanistan, and some of them within. But the only problem is that will Imran Khan, as the Prime Minister, be able to shake off his deep state? Because all these terrorist tanzeems are the so-called strategic assets of the Pakistani deep state.
No, fair point indeed. This is Pakistani's deep state, and the deep state has employed, non-stage actors, which have kind of led to the situation. I'll come to that in just a bit. But Wajahat Habibullah, one of the things that we're being also told is that Imran Khan, the Pakistan Prime Minister, has offered to make a phone call to our own Prime Minister. What should we be expecting from that press conference, from the telephone conversation? Could there be meaningful progress? Because nothing really has changed on the ground other than return of one Indian Air Force pilot. But that was never really the big bone of contention. The big bone of contention is the brutal killing of 40 CRPF soldiers by terror that is perpetrated and bred on Pakistan's soil. The brutal killing, and India being at the receiving end of terror bred there. So my question is, what are we hinging too much hope on a dialogue if it were to happen between the two prime ministers?
Well, this is a big issue. I would beg to disagree. The big issue, of course, the tragedy of the 44 CRPF Jawans is there, but that was a consequence, not the real issue. The real issue is that Pakistan, as we have been repeatedly saying, is allowing its soil to be used for terrorism. There are terrorist organizations located there. Yeah, in this particular case, I did raise the question with some friends as to why the attack was in Balakot when their headquarters are in Bahawalpur. I was told that, well, there was credible intelligence to show that they have actually shifted their trainees and incipient terrorists from Bahawalpur to Balakot, which they probably considered a safer resort. The fact is that I want to know. And that, unfortunately, is a question that was not answered in the press conference. I hope it will be answered in good time, as to how many of these terrorists we have succeeded in eliminating. I would be interested in seeing the neutralization of these terrorist organizations, and I think that can certainly be the subject of the discussion between the Prime Ministers of India and Pakistan. If Pakistan is sincere in actually mending its relations, then the issue is quite simple. If they are to stand by their own commitment, a commitment made by President Musharraf to our then Prime Minister, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that his soil would not be used for terrorism, then in that case, if the present Pakistan government agrees to stand by that commitment, that in itself, I think, would be the way forward.
No, fair point indeed. And I think one of the questions that comes to my mind as well, and Tilak Deveshwar, if I may come to you, sir, because in the briefing that was done, there was a very direct question asked on how many soldiers were, how many of those terrorists were killed in the terror busting when the terror camp in Balakot was busted? The number was 300, and the media has gone to town with that number. This is exactly what we've been told in off-cam briefings and all of that. No corrective intervention has been made, and even then, I think it was told to us in the briefing that it's too premature to put a number there. If it's too premature to put a number there, should we have not been more proactive in correcting the number of 300 that is doing the rounds? And at what stage will we know what kind, and what was the measure of terrorists who were killed in that operation?
You see that if through investigative journalism, a lot of the bodies are going to go back to their villages and houses, especially in South Punjab. So wherever the namaz-e-janaza or the Gaibana namaz-e-janaza is held, that is one indication of where and how many people were killed in this particular thing. Secondly, in the JEM documentation, because now the families of these people who are killed will seek to get the status of parents of martyrs, and their financial reward is given to them. So this will get documented in the publications of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and that is something which I think journalists and everybody should be looking at to see how many people, names have come out who died in this particular thing. And this kind of thing can't be kept hidden for very long. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you have credible intelligence that X number of terrorists are in a particular place. Now that intelligence cannot be up to date hour to hour. It will be maybe a week old, maybe 3 days old. But at the time when the attack took place, how many were physically present? Some may have gone out, some may not be there. So you can't really put a pinpointed figure on it. But through these additional measures of the kind of funerals that are held, the names that appear in the publications of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, we should be able to get a very good idea of how many people were actually killed in the airstrike.
No, fair point indeed. I'll go for a last round of questions with all of you. And Ambassador Stobdan, to begin with you, there is a narrow window of opportunity that many people believe we have because Pakistan is under tremendous diplomatic pressure. There is US that's mediating, China, its all-weather allies like the Saudi Arabia, the UAE have also not been standing alongside Pakistan. So given that narrow window of opportunity that we have, what more can we extract out of Pakistan at this stage? Because, leaving things as they are not going to serve a purpose, will they?
My own understanding is there is already a rift within Pakistan, perhaps between the civilian government and the military on this issue. I think if it was in the hand of the military, our pilot wouldn't have been released so early, number one. Number two, I think it's not about what the international community wants to do with us. It's also about which particular country, whether China or Saudi Arabia, wants to control Pakistan. And I'm sure, I think the competition is at that level. And if I heard that Trump administration may have only asked the Saudis to intervene, I don't think the Americans would have given Russians and the Chinese to do the middleman role. So clearly it seems that Saudis have been asked to interfere or play some kind of a role in Pakistan, whereas I think the Chinese also have some hold over the military in Pakistan. So I think the release of our pilot is somewhere, I think the answer lies somewhere there. And in the days to come, I think this is where I think our foreign minister was in China in RIC conference, and tomorrow she is going to be in the OIC conference. And it's settling between these two. So it's much more depends upon which particular power has bigger hold over the Pakistanis. So that would actually decide much more. They will be able to give more answer to our problem rather than what actually we could do in the days ahead.
Questions, and one of them is coming your way, Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, and the question is that the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, today said, I do not think it was in half jest, but he did say, अभी एक pilot project पूरा हो गया है, real करना है, पहले तो practice थी. How are you going to read into that statement? And there are people who are saying that, is India right in not responding to desperate calls of Pakistan for de-escalation? How are you going to read into the Prime Minister's statement of this evening?
Well, I'm the wrong chap that you've asked, But, when we were talking about the tri-service press conference in the evening, and, people were saying that there'll be, you were asking, I think, will there be any de-escalation? Well, if you would dovetail with what the Prime Minister's statement was with the tri-services conference, you'll get the answer. I think the government of India and the nation perhaps are going to put a lot more pressure on the Pakistani government to walk the talk. And, I'm sure that we would have something up our sleeves, whether to arrest the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Mahmoud Azhar and the Lashkar-e-Toiba, now known as Jamaat-ul-Dawa chief Hafiz Saeed and things like that, so that the Pakistanis are also seen to be doing something as far as terrorism is concerned. So I feel that at the moment there's no question of any de-escalation. We have to take whatever has been started to its logical and to its successful conclusion. It all depends on Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, whether how much further he can go on his own, independent of his deep state. And let's see how things will, everything will be clear in the next 3, 4, 5 days. And so let's not think that, just because the wing commander is coming tomorrow, India-Pakistan peace pipes will be smoked and there'll be happiness all around. It's much too premature for us to even think on those lines. I think a lot more work is still required before peace really settles in, which we hope it does settle in, and peace and sanity prevails in the subcontinent.
Okay. No, talking about sanity, a quick last word to Mr. Wajahat Habibullah answer. This is a bit of an unpopular question when tempers and nationalism and hyperventilation is flying so high, but are some of our responses being dictated by public outcry and what we're seeing on social media, war cry? And the question is that, is this jingoism perhaps a little detrimental to what the peace prospects could be?
Well, jingoism is always detrimental, not a question of little detrimental. And when we talk of de-escalation, and generally people have said that the speakers have said that we can't look forward to de-escalation, I think that we need to be clear on what we mean. De-escalation of the military confrontation. Certainly we should look forward to a military de-escalation, but not a diplomatic de-escalation, for the reason that I mentioned to you, that we cannot de-escalate or remove the pressure, military, diplomatic and others. We may leverage it, that less military but more diplomatic or whatever. But the fact is, the pressure must be retained in terms of eliminating, not reducing mind you, eliminating the use of Pakistani soil for the nurturing of terrorism against us. And Pakistan is well aware of this. This has been raised with them many times in the past. And de-escalation certainly does not mean any reduction in that pressure. We may use different means. As you know, I don't have to remind you and the generals and others who are with you that war is only diplomacy by other means. So whereas the war option remains always at the end, at this stage we can think in terms of de-escalating the military option in terms of increased diplomatic and negotiating pressure.
Okay, on that note, I think we've completely run out of time here. Jingoism in all its forms is detrimental. Efforts must be made for peace, but I think there's one thing that is certain. India is no longer prepared to be a recipient of asymmetrical terror strikes. We are no longer prepared to be at the receiving end of terror that's bred, trained and perpetrated in Pakistan. We have reset perhaps the equation to a great extent. This is a message that Pakistan must take. We are no longer willing to look the other side. Having said that, should we be responding to peace overtures? Should we be making peace? Absolutely yes, because war at the end of the day amounts to losses, and these are not economic or fiscal losses, but huge losses of lives. Ask a soldier, and I think then get to hyperventilation and nationalism. On that note, we take a quick breather on this leg of the show, and I thank each one of you for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. We take a quick breather, back with yet another fascinating discussion. We put politics at the center stage and talk about the politicization of this entire event and who is to be blamed. That's coming up in a moment from now.